heroism. It's the pursuit of two ideals, excellence and a higher purpose. This noble mission is not just found in Hollywood. It's a game changer for businesses devoted to it. Almost all business owners launch their company to make a difference in the world around them. Join us on the Heroic Experience as we talk with business owners, senior leaders, and established entrepreneurs so that you too can elevate your business to heroic success. Now, here's your host, John D. Hanson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Heroic Experience. We are proudly sponsored by Kaufman Media. You know, digital signage is part of the landscape. It's all around us. You may not even be aware of how much it is and how it could impact your business. Check out Kaufman Media's website to find out more about how it could help your business. That's COFFMAN media.com. So happy to have Brian Wagner, speaker and creator of A Radical Vision, as our guest today. Brian, I'm looking forward to hearing your story in segment 2, but we always start off segment 1 with 2 or 3 of the wow client stories of organizations that have brought you in as a speaker and are so glad you did. We'd love to hear those. Thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, John.
My pleasure. So what are some of those that just jump right off the top of your head about this organization was like, well, we'll have Brian in, and then they were like, oh, we are so glad you came. Do you have a couple of those you could share with us?
Yeah, so, I mean, the organizations that I've had, I've spoken to have been groups that support those with intellectual and developmental disabilities or nursing groups or other healthcare organizations.
Okay.
But then I've also had some IT organizations that have had me in. And I'll say the one of the IT organizations that had me in really was blown away when it came to blind spots.
Yeah.
You know, this organization was just amazed of the level of depth that I had taken them to and talked about when it comes to knowing their own blind spots. I found that really interesting.
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest aha moment that I've had, is that conversation that I had with people down there.
Yeah. I noticed you've been speaking recently to a lot of HR, human resources groups and associations. Yep. Boy, if that's one industry that is facing a challenge with staffing nowadays, they can use all kinds of ideas that work. What do you think, as you've heard the feedback from the clients you've worked with, what have been some of the things you've brought in your conversation that's been most helpful, specifically in the human resources world?
Yeah, so in this goes specific to human resources, but it goes beyond that. So diversity and inclusion, you know, it's a lot of what I speak about. Obviously, being a guy that, you know, a white male in my 50s, that you wouldn't think that I would be a diversity and inclusion specialist.
Right.
But I'm coming to a point where I realize that I am.
Sure.
And that's because of the facial features that I have with one eye open, one eye closed. You know, I have other ailments that preclude me from doing a lot of other things that most people can do.
Right.
But I focus on what I can do.
Yes.
I don't focus on what I can't do. So
no.
That's an important aspect of all this, and having that conversation with HR folks has really been probably the most helpful thing, because really getting them to embrace that knowing that we all have disabilities. But embracing those disabilities for what we can get from them, that's really where it's at.
Yeah, it's got to be so rewarding, too. And I know we'll get into this in segment 2, because I think I know your story. I've heard it. It's so powerful. You know, that you've got a night and day type experience, not always having lived this radical vision, a radical change in your life. So we'll get to that for segment 2. What's another client story that comes to your mind of you came in as a speaker and they really appreciated having you because you helped change their paradigm in a very healthy way?
Yeah, and I would say it's another different organization completely. But this is an HR organization where, you know, I spoke for them probably about a year ago, and I was, you know, when you're speaking, sometimes you don't always know the impact you're having.
Right.
Actually, many times you don't know the impact you're having.
Yes.
But at the end, having people come up to you and talk to you about the the things you said, the emotions you brought out, all those in the interactions that we had with each other, seeing that happen in this organization in particular, there in Indiana, we had a great conversation and were able to understand how much of a difference I'd made with people that have had traumatic brain injuries, other people that have gone through some other things as well, but then just people that are in a normal walk of life, and they want to know how they can do better to include others that are different from them. So that's really where I had a large impact with them.
Now, I would ask this question, kind of a curveball, Brian. What about the person that's like, I don't have a story like that. I don't have anything in my life that's like, wow, you experienced this, or you learned from this, or how does your message help people like that? What would you say to people who are like, I don't have a story, I don't have anything that's wow? What would you say to that person that's listening, thinking, I don't have a story like Brian, I don't have these life experiences that can really change someone's paradigm? What would you say to them?
Well, we all have a story, and whatever our story is, we may not have. We may think of it as being a grandiose idea, a grandiose occurrence that happens to us or for us. Yeah. But it really has to do with what you make of those everyday life instances. So looking back on life, looking back on your day, looking back on years, and noticing those ups and downs. I mean, those make you relatable. Those make you human. Those make you who you are, and other people with that can identify with that. So I would say that those people that there's nothing wrong with not having a big moment like I had, but that's what it took me.
Interesting. I love that word you pulled up, relatable. In relationships nowadays, in particular, in relationships, trust is the social currency in today's marketplace, and especially going forward. Relatable is directly tied to authenticity. And people sometimes think, like, I don't have that great of a story. I remember in church often people are like, well, I don't have a great testimony, so why should I share it? Well, because there's probably a bunch of other people that have the exact same experience that you had. The part about inclusion is not just also bringing in people that aren't like you. It's also engaging with people who are and encouraging them to experience and to learn and to grow from what you experienced and learned and grew from. Would you say that that's something that you can encourage people in? And we've got about a minute left, so give me about 30-second snippet. How do you help people that are like wowed by your story? How do you help them take action to make a difference in someone else's life?
There's some simple things that can be done. So we talk a little bit about, writing a letter, like my daughter wrote me a letter. We talk a little bit about how we can include people that are different from us, and how do we embrace people that are different from us. So all those things to say that really it comes down to some simple, factual tidbits of learning lessons that we can have, and it's nothing you've not heard before, maybe in a different format. So
intentionality.
Look forward to that.
Yeah. Well, I am so looking forward for people to hear your story. So when we come back after the break, join us so we can hear Brian Wagner share his story that inspired a radical vision. We'll see you after the break.
Inspire, influence, and connect your audience with digital signage. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Whether you need digital menu boards for your quick service restaurant, digital displays for marketing in your retail stores, or wayfinding and unified communications for your schools, your corporations, or your healthcare facility, our customizable, affordable options and proven experience make us the only partner you'll need for your next digital signage project. Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Would you buy a car from a dealer without a test drive first? For your business, a consulting partner is even more important. Accelerated Revenue is excited to announce the Take Us for a Test Drive event. Receive 2 exclusive workshops on customer experience and winning culture, a customized culture snapshot, and a leadership strategy session worth over $10,000, all in for just $2,500. Best of all, when you onboard our consulting team, we'll credit you the entire $2,500. Spots are limited, so visit our website today at accrev.com/test drive.
Check out John's worldwide selling book, Wow Your Customers, 7 Ways to World-Class Service on Amazon. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience. We are grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Digital signage, it is a part of our lives, whether you realize it or not. But for business owners in particular, it can be a real game changer if you learn how to leverage it to grow your business, to communicate effectively. Visit Kaufman Media's website to learn all about it. Kaufman Media, that's spelled COFFMAN media.com. I am honored to have Brian Wagner, good friend of mine, speaker and creator of A Radical Vision, as our guest. This is the part of the show I love the most because I've occasionally heard people's stories, but oftentimes I haven't. And until you hear someone's story, you don't know what they've experienced. So, Brian, we'd love to hear, as far back as you want to go, we'd love to hear your story. What got you to where you're here now today?
Well, I typically start the story off with when I was a 10-year-old boy.
Okay.
And that's where I discovered that I had hydrocephalus, which is a buildup of fluid on my brain. So I had to have a shunt put in for that. We really didn't know what caused the buildup of fluid. But, back then, that was in 77, fast forward to 92.
Yeah.
I discovered that some of the cause for the increased fluid on my brain was the fact that I had these things called cavernous malformations, cavernous malformation, or a CAV-mal, if you will.
That's easy for you to say, isn't it?
It's a malformed blood vessel, and they can form anywhere in your body.
Really?
Mine just happened to have formed in my brain stem.
Ooh.
Yeah, so totally inoperable, nothing you could do about it, and hopefully they don't bleed.
Wow.
Well, then in 2011, I actually had an instance where they bled. So they bled, and I'm sure they bled several times before that, but I never really noticed too much of a problem.
Yeah.
But they bled on March 4th of 2011, and when I woke up that day, I couldn't see. So
so you went to bed not being able to see, and you woke up on March 4th not being able to see.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so that's, I use the word radical, but that is a radical shift in experience. How old were you at the time, Brian?
I was 43.
So what we would say statistically, half of your life has been lived with what everybody else would experience, except for that surgery at 10 years old. But then you wake up one day and you couldn't see out of both eyes?
Right.
Well, so you were totally blind, totally visionary night before, totally blind the next morning. Oh, that would freak me out. So walk us through what happened after that.
Then my wife heard the commotion downstairs, and she took me to the emergency room as soon as we were able to. And then the doctor, after tests and all kinds of waiting, the doctor came in and said, that we're recommending that we have brain surgery. That's when everything changed, because up until then, they had always recommended that I've never had brain surgery, because these things were in a place that they were inoperable.
Right.
But all of a sudden they became operable because my symptoms were only going to be worse and more frequent. So worse and more frequent were the only words I heard for, the next 27 days until I was able to have brain surgery by a guy in Phoenix, Arizona. And that was what caused me, I had 3 small kids at the time.
Wow.
But that whole experience caused me to want to tell them a little bit more about what I'd done. So I wrote a book, and the book is called Sometimes It Does Take a Brain Surgeon.
I wondered if that was, I'm glad you wove that in, because I love humor, but I didn't want to say something out of place because, it is brain surgery in this case. Sometimes, give us the title of that book again, Brian.
Sometimes it does take a brain surgeon.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so continue on. So you're scheduled for the surgery. It's been about a month since you've lost sight. Still have no vision?
Yep.
Okay,
right.
No vision. You go in for the surgery. What's the recovery like? What does it look like? No pun intended. What's your experience now following surgery?
Right. So I had surgery on April 1st.
Okay.
No fooling.
No fooling. Okay.
2011.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was going to, provide a quick fix for me. Everything would be back to normal. So that didn't happen. But actually, the same day that I had surgery, I was up and walking the hall.
Okay.
Now, I did have a little assistance from my brother. He kept some of the things hidden that needed to be hidden. There's some things that nobody needs to see. But
right.
other than that, I was on my own. And, discharged the next day from the hospital with a little bottle of extra strength Tylenol.
Wow.
And, for the next 6 days, we stayed in Phoenix, not wanting to go too far away from the hospital. So, we stayed there and just got by. And then we came back home and, again, I thought things would get back to normal. It took months and months and months before, my one eye started to open a little bit, so I was able to see a little bit out of it.
Wow. How many months, Brian? How many months was that?
It was June when I was able to get a little bit of sight back. So,
okay. 2 months to get a little bit of sight in one eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens after that for you, both family and career?
Family, everything continued on. I mean, it was like normal. Nothing ever happened with my family, and they still had issues of being teenagers, and that was a part of life. Life continued on, but work was tough for me. I was in IT sales at the time.
Oh,
so before then, I'd worked for IBM for about 10 years, and then I worked for other companies like IBM that sold IBM stuff, hardware, software services, and then after a few years, I realized that was not the place that I was meant to be. So I knew that I wanted to be able to help other people. As I'm going through this whole process, I knew I wanted to be able to help other people. Didn't know how I could do that, but back on November 4th of 2016. I made the decision to stay in my lane and stay with the company that I'd started in. That's what I do now. Is my focus is to help and lead and encourage other people that are different from me. So that's all a part of what I do.
Yeah, that's got to be so rewarding too. Because I know that the reason why this show is story driven is because that's what captures people's attention. That's what resonates. And then that's what attaches or connects us with others is a story, whether it's compelling, whether it's everyday, doesn't matter. It's the stories that connect us. We've got about 15, 20 seconds left before our next break. Time just flies this way. What would you say is one of the most unique venues you've spoken in, Brian?
Wow. One of the most unique venues.
Yeah, one you got that really stands out in your mind.
I spoke at a high school.
Ah.
That was unique.
Yeah.
For me, anyways. I've spoken a lot in conference rooms and ballrooms and that sort of thing, but to speak in a high school was unique.
Yeah, that would be rewarding too. Well, we're up against our next break. We're so glad to have Brian Wagner on with us. Join us back in this third segment. We're going to learn out how do you contact him, how do you follow him, and what some differentiators are about what he does. So join us back after the break.
Did you know that 70% of U.S. residents 12 and older recall seeing digital signage in the past week? Digital signage provides a 35% reduction in perceived wait time with a 30% increase in a customer's in-store browsing time. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Christina said,
"We love our digital signage. The software is easy to use and we can publish content in minutes. It allows for every department to be seen and have a voice."
Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Attention event planners. Is your company or association planning a conference, seminar, or staff retreat? Are you looking for fresh ideas on high-demand topics like customer experience, leadership, empathy, customer service, earning and keeping trust, and more? Then you need to book John D. Hansen as your next speaker. Brooke said,
"Great presentation. John's concepts help shift my thinking. A good fit for my life right now."
Read more testimonials, discover John's full list of speaking topics, check out pricing and more on our website, accrev.com/keynote.
Would you like to be a guest on the Heroic Experience? Contact us at john.hansen@accrev.com. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience, where we are grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Check out their digital signage solutions and far more on their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Well, I'm grateful to have Brian Wagner, speaker and creator at Radical Vision, as our guest today. Great to hear your story, Brian. People will definitely appreciate now kind of having a snapshot of what you've experienced, what you've gotten to. And one question that I ask in the third segment is, I've found a lot of people that are speaking on diversity and inclusion. What would you say is a differentiator for you as you've been sharing your message in that space?
I would say the differentiator for me is that my diversity is different than everybody else's. I mean, and yes, most people can say that, but my diversity changes. My diversity is not constant. Even though you see me as one guy with one eye. Actually, I refer to myself as Brian with one eye. But I see that also because I have these cavernous malformations in my brainstem that bleed from time to time. I see that as the differentiator because when those bleed, I have loss in one area, but I also have gain in other areas. So I'm able to. I know I need to focus on what I have, what I can do, and not what I can't do. So
that's a great life lesson right there, Brian. I mean, to jump in, I'll let you finish your thought. But if someone's listening to this show and they're like, I have a great story, or we are our toughest critics. We are our own toughest critics. We're toughest on ourselves, but we often compare. We compare ourselves to others, what we see in others' lives, what we like to do that's happening in other people's lives, and focusing on what we don't have. And I can fall into that easily enough where I've got to refocus and be like, no, I need to focus on what I am doing, what I can do, what's in front of me. Is that something that what helps you do that? Did the life experience help you with that, or did you already bring that into the life experience, Brian?
Your question again. So your question is, what helps me focus on what I can do?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I know I want to continue to speak with people. I want to be able to continue to inspire people. I'm not always sure how I can do that. So sometimes it's hard to find speaking engagements. But I mean,
right.
I'm still able to talk on a live stream that I do every day or I do every Monday by myself, and sometimes by myself, but sometimes I have guests on.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have you on that show as well, John. So having that ability to talk with people in any sort of way that I can, I want to take advantage of that because I know that this gift that I've been given, the gift of blindness. Is one that I don't want to waste.
Yes, right.
And I want to help as many people as I can.
Yeah. So great segue. You set the ball right on the tee for me, so to speak. Even though I couldn't hit it with a golf club to save my life, but I appreciate you doing that because that segues perfectly to what's the best way for people to follow you, to connect with you. What are some ways they can do that, Brian?
Yeah. So you can go to Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and find me at A Radical Vision. And that's the name A Radical Vision. So ARADICALVISION. The whole thing spelled out all together. So that's typically where I am. If they would like to call me, my phone is also there. So I'm at 614-946-1635, and my website is there for the taking, and any information that you can that you need, you can get there. And that is aradicalvision.com, just spelled the same way, aradicalvision.com.
Great. So what have you got on your schedule or calendar right now? I'm in the speaking space as well, and I've noticed there's been a significant uptick in opportunities, where last year it was, like you said, really slim pickings. So this year I'm starting to see, especially for the fall, there's even a lot of opportunities opening up. So what have you got on your plate here in the near future, Brian?
In March, I'm going to be going to Seattle, Washington, and I'm going to be speaking with the state of Washington, SHRM, out there. So that will be in the Great Northwest. And then after that, I have a speech at the Interagency Council of Developmental Disabilities Council, and that is in Manhattan, New York. So looking forward to that one as well.
You mentioned your show. Where can they find that, and who are some people that you'd love to have as a guest? Like, I've frustrated with this in networking, where I ask somebody, all right, so who are you looking for? And they say, oh, anybody. Well, that doesn't help me narrow it down, because I have thousands of anybody's. Yeah. So if you could say, ideally, if you're in this and you want to be on a live stream podcast, who would that look like, and where can they find your show?
Yes, so my show, again, can be found on LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as YouTube. My YouTube channel is A Radical Vision, just like before.
Okay.
And I would say the ideal client for my show, or the ideal interviewee for my client for my show, is to have anyone that has experience with developmental disabilities.
Got it.
And that's the ideal person to be able to come on and talk about that.
Sure. Okay, awesome. So what would you say, I don't often get to ask questions like this. These are kind of fun one-off questions. Was there something before and now something after this major life event that you enjoy even more because of, not in what you can't do, what you can do? What has gotten even more enjoyable, more rewarding, more fulfilling for you now?
I've always been a family man. I used to golf a lot. I don't golf nearly as much. I used to golf at least one time a week. Now I golf maybe one time a year.
Right.
On my birthday. I've refocused a lot of my attention. I've always been a family man, like I was saying. And I love being with my family. So just being able to spend more time with them has been great. My kids are older. They're all moved out of the house, but this allows us to be able to go to where they are and see them from time to time. So, I would say that's probably the biggest area that I enjoy. I enjoy more than I even enjoyed then, which was a lot. Sure.
Yeah, and I think it would put kind of a fresh perspective on, boy, I'm grateful to be here, let alone be able to spend it with the ones that I love. We've got about a minute left. This question, too, comes to my mind. People might not think of this, but I realize this as I've been following your social media, Brian, is that you can't just hop in the car and go somewhere. I take that for granted. So what have been some positives and some challenges with you need literally a chauffeur everywhere you go?
Right. So my challenges are I don't drive. So I'm in my basement every day. So and when I go and work at the School for the Blind, which is every Monday through Thursday, every day in the afternoon. So I'm there for an after-school program, which we haven't talked about yet. But there's a lot that goes into that. But I ride mainstream, COTA mainstream, which COTA stands for Central Ohio Transit Authority, and I'm able to take that bus from my home to the school. It's very nice. My wife and anybody else who knows me knows that I need transportation to go anywhere I want to go. And if I were to have lunch or coffee or breakfast with someone, part of the arrangement is, hey, you need to pick me up. So that's kind of how it is.
Well, thanks for being our guest, Brian. Join us back on the next episode of The Heroic Experience. We'll see you then.
This has been The Heroic Experience. To learn how your business can be profitable and heroic, visit ACCREV.com. For access to free weekly content, subscribe to the Accelerated Revenue YouTube channel and follow John D. Hanson on LinkedIn. To listen to archived shows, find them on the Accelerated Revenue website under the Resources tab, ACCREV.com.